Hello, my name is Andy Peterson, and I know we're still getting some people joining. We expect a large group today, but I think we're going to go ahead and start, and we'll let other people join as they're able. And so I'd like to welcome you today to this webcast that we're hosting about the SOA pathway and how you can become an actuary through the SOA process. Our agenda today is that we'll have a brief level of introductions, as I'll do in a minute, of our speakers. Then we'll have our two other speakers talk about, first, Scott will talk about our credentialing pathway. We'll have Geet, who's a fellow of the Society of Actuaries, talk about his experience taking exams in India. I'll talk a little bit more about the value proposition for our exams in India and some other materials and resources, and then we'll try and have plenty of time at the end for questions and an answer period. So with that in mind, I would welcome you to submit questions as we go. There is a Q&A button that's on your screen as part of the Zoom platform, the Zoom webinar platform. There's also a chat function, but I'd ask it's easiest if you can put your questions into the Q&A section, and then we'll deal with those at the end of the session. But feel free to put the questions in at any point in time while you're hearing the presentation. If anything piques your interest, or as you hear it, we certainly welcome your questions. So with that, let's move right into more formal introductions of our speakers. So again, my name is Andy Peterson. Andrew is my formal name, but usually go by Andy. I am a managing director for international activities here at the Society of Actuaries. I'm also a fellow of the Society of Actuaries, and worked as an actuary for many years before joining the SOA about 16 years ago. And in my role, I'm overseeing the work that we do outside of the U.S. to help the growth and the development of the actuarial profession in many countries, including in India. I've had the privilege of visiting India about five times, most recently in February when I attended the Global Conference of Actuaries that was hosted by the Institute of Actuaries of India, the IAI. So happy to be moderating and doing a little speaking for today's session. Our second speaker will be Scott Lennox. Scott is also a fellow of the Society of Actuaries, as well as a member of the fellow of the Canadian Institute of Actuaries and the Casualty Actuarial Society. Scott is on staff with the SOA. He's a staff fellow in our education department, so he's very involved in the education process, of the examination process, and helping to put together exams and just what happens behind the scenes. He's also a part-time instructor at the University of Waterloo in Canada, where he teaches property and casualty insurance pricing and reserving. He's also co-author of a textbook on those same topics. So Scott's very knowledgeable in the sorts of things we're going to be talking about today, and he'll give a lot of background on the SOA credentialing process and how to take exams and that sort of material. After Scott, then we'll have Geet Mora. Geet is also a fellow of the Society of Actuaries. He works as an assistant vice president and actuary at Chubb in India, in Bangalore. And he finished these exams, I believe, a couple of years ago, or 2021, I believe. So he has practical experience of what it's like to take exams as a student candidate in India. And so he'll be relating that, and then I hope he'll be a good resource during the Q&A period as well. Okay, so maybe just a little bit of background about the Society of Actuaries. We do have as our purpose statement that we seek to empower all of our members to drive solutions to life's financial risks. So being an actuary is all about helping to manage risk. And so as the Society of Actuaries, we seek to help our members to do that. And And we do that through trying to help provide education that's engaging, that helps and prepares students to work in the real world and so on. In terms of who we are and sort of our role in India, we're dedicated to the advancement of the actuarial profession worldwide. We have over 33,000 credentialed actuaries. So those are folks who are either associates or fellows of the Society of Actuaries. And then another 34,000 roughly candidates taking our exams around the world. So we are the largest actuarial association in the world, not necessarily in India, but the largest worldwide, and with a growing presence in India. We have India Advisory Task Force. It's made up of about 10 individuals from actuaries and others who work in the actuarial space, particularly those who are working for offshoring captives in the India market. And so they help us with our activities and give us guidance. We have a India lead, Arundam Mukherjee, who's participating in this call, and if necessary, we can maybe ask him a question later, but he's mostly listening today. But he leads our activities in India. We also have a new office that we've opened in Dubai, and we have a regional director, Zain Ibrahim, who supports all of our work across the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. So that's a new development in terms of our commitment to actuaries in this region of the world. So with that brief introduction, I'm going to move along and ask Scott to come on camera. And hopefully he'll be able to join. Actually, I'm seeing, it appears that we've lost Scott. I'm not sure. Let's see. I don't see him as one of our current panelists. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start the process then all right, we've learned that he's got some issues with his internet. I'm going to go ahead and start doing some of Scott's slides just because I have presented some of those in the past. And so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in, and hopefully Scott will join us soon, and he'll be able to pick up with his presentation. I guess that's the joys of doing live events via technology. While we've fixed a lot of things, sometimes there are glitches that happen in the work of doing this. So let me just start, and I'll start working through these. And if Scott joins, we'll let him pick up when he joins. So what we're showing here are all the components it takes to become an associate of the Society of Actuaries. As I mentioned or alluded to, we have two levels of credentials. We have an associate level, and then we have a fellow level. And so all these boxes on this screen basically show the different components that one has to take or pass in order to become an associate. And typically people will work from the left to the right. And what's worth pointing out is that the color coding means something. So the light blue color basically refers to anything that is a traditional exam. Now, the exam may have different formats, but those are exams. So the first two exams students will take is usually either the financial mathematics, this one in the upper left, or probability. Those are each, I believe, 3-hour exams, and they're both multiple choice exams. They're offered actually each 6 times a year. So that provides a lot of flexibility for students, and they're also offered at Prometric test centers. So we use computer-based testing centers run through a company called Prometric. And Prometric, on the specific dates of the exams, you would go to a Prometric center and have the opportunity to take these exams. And basically it's every other month. So in 1 month, financial mathematics is offered, the next month probability, and so on. So they're each offered at 6 points throughout the year. One of the unique things about these exams is that they provide instantaneous results. So when you get to the end of the exam, basically when you're finished and you don't want to, you're comfortable with your results, you hit finish, complete, and you get a score as you learn as you're leaving the exam test center, whether you've passed or failed that exam. So that's nice in the sense that you don't have to wait 6 to 8 weeks for your exam scores, and whether you can continue on to something new or whether you will need to maybe study again for that exam. So those are the first 2 exams, financial mathematics and probability. Again, those are multiple choice exams. After that, then we have a series of components that are the VE. VE stands for Validation by Educational Experience. And what we are requesting or requiring here, we don't have an exam in these topics, so we don't have an exam in economics or accounting and finance. But what we have asked you to do is show that you've taken a university level course on that topic. And so by taking that university course, you would then send us essentially like a copy of your transcript to show that you've done that. And then that gives you credit for those areas. Scott, are you with us now?
I am. So I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened to all of a sudden, my internet connection just shut down. So I'm a bit of a scramble here trying to reboot everything. So, okay. So it looks like you are at the
I'm on this first slide. I basically have kind of been talking about the first metric, the multiple choice, and then I was talking about the VEs and how those aren't exams, but they have to show that they've taken a university level course and submit their transcript to us. And that's about as far as I'd gotten on this slide.
Okay. All right. I'm just waiting for my notes to pop up here. So it looks like I'm having all kinds of computer problems here today. So hopefully my connection will remain and I'll stay on the call, but I'm sure Andy can take over in a pinch if something drastic happens. But anyway, so let's continue on with the pathway. So and probably a little overlap here with maybe what Andy has already said, but the different colors represent the different components of the pathway. The VEEs are validation of educational experience, and you get credit for those through taking university courses. The blue are the exams, and so there's 5 of those exams in the associateship pathway. The yellow are e-learning, online e-learning modules that you take, and then the red is the professionalism course that comes at the end of the ASA pathway. So the way that the progression that you read through this graphic would be from left to right. So you would typically want to take the foundational components before you then move on to the more advanced parts of the pathway. And within each column, you would typically complete it from top to bottom. There's no strict order that must be followed in completing the requirements. But there are some sequences that matter. For example, the fundamentals of actuarial mathematics should be taken before either of the advanced actuarial mathematics exam. However, you should view this as a progression, and the components in the first column are the foundational knowledge that will help you pass the requirements in the second column, for example. And I want to draw attention to a few things. 4 of the exams are multiple choice: the financial mathematics, the probability in the first column, and in the second column, the fundamentals of actuarial mathematics and the statistics for risk modeling. The advanced actuarial mathematics exams, and there's 2 of those advanced exams, and you have your choice of taking either the short or the long term. So the long term would be your long-term insurance coverages like life insurance or pensions, and short-term coverages would be something like group benefits or property and casualty. Those two exams, the advanced exams and the predictive analytics exams in the third column, those are written answers. So they are graded by hand by actuaries who are experts in that area. The SOA offers a strong offering in statistics and especially predictive analytics. The predictive analytics exam is a highly regarded exam that focuses on the understanding of modeling results rather than memorization of facts and formulas. The advanced topics in predictive analytics e-learning module was added a few years ago to build on the knowledge from the predictive analytics exam. Since this is an e-learning module, you build models and analyze the results of those models. And the best way to learn predictive analytics is to actually run models, and this course is designed to give you that learning. Okay, so let's move on to the fellowship requirements on the next slide. Once you've completed the ASA requirements, you'll move on to the fellowship requirements. And this slide represents the current approach to the fellowship education, where there are 6 distinct specialty tracks that represent all the areas of actuarial practice. Each track has a mixture of exams, and there's generally three per in each track, and the e-learning modules, and there's generally 3 of those in each track as well. There's also a decision-making and communication e-learning module, and then at the end, everyone completes the fellowship admissions course. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. I want to talk about the changes that are coming to the fellowship pathway in the fall of 2025. We're currently working toward getting these changes ready for next year. The e-learning module on decision-making and communication will remain, but all other e-learning modules will be removed. And instead, each pathway will now have 4 courses. Now, we call these courses as the assessment approach for each course could be different than an exam, such as a project to work on. But many of them are expected to have exams as the assessment, at least initially. In today's pathway, you must select one specialty track to follow, but in the new pathway, you will have flexibility to take courses in more than one area of practice. So many of our candidates outside of North America work on multiple areas of practice. So this flexibility is seen as something very positive for them. Some exams will be offered 3 times a year as compared to currently being offered twice a year. And the detailed regulatory material will be moved outside of the FSA requirements, which means that candidates outside of North America will now not be required to know the very specific US requirements, unless, of course, you want to know those. Also, for a fee, you will be able to get individual feedback if you do not pass an exam, but were very close to passing. And we will be improving the source material where needed. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Here's a current list of the Prometric centers in India where you can write an SOA exam. So all of our exams are written at Prometric centers. And this makes sure that every person writing an SOA exam has the same experience as everyone else, has the same equipment as everyone else. The SOA exams are proctored at the highest level of security that Prometric offers. It is very important to us that we have a level playing field for our members so that actuaries who qualify today are on the same level as those who have qualified in the past. The financial mathematics and probability exams offer instant results. So as soon as you are done, you find out whether you passed or not. We can do this because we have a large bank of questions that are used, and we know how everyone has done on those questions in the past. So when you sit down to write one of these exams, you get a randomly generated set of questions that are unique to you, but your exam is the same level of difficulty as everyone else's exam. The fundamentals of actuarial mathematics and statistics for risk modeling exams are newer exams, so we don't yet have a large enough bank of questions, but we do expect these exams to be instant results within the next year or two. For the 2 written answer exams, every exam is graded a first time, and everyone who is somewhat close to the preliminary pass mark, both a little bit below and a little bit above, is graded by a second grader. Those 2 graders then review all of the exams until they agree on a final mark for each exam. We do this thorough approach to grading because we want to make sure we are passing everyone who has demonstrated a good enough understanding of the material to be considered a passing score. Of course, the downside is that this takes time to do this thorough grading process. So candidates do not get their results instantly for these exams. Okay, so let's move on to slide 13. And this is, you can visit the Global Access landing page on our website for more information on the SOA Global Access pricing for those living in India and Pakistan. The discount is 50% for initial components and 30% for the later components, such as predictive analytics and the fundamentals of actuarial practice module. This is an initial pilot for associate level exams offered in 2024. So let's take a look at the process that you would follow in registering for an SOA exam. So following that landing page for the global access, you'll see that you'll see the pricing and the different exams that are offered as part of this program. Okay, so then you'll just want to scroll down and find the exam that you want to register for. I think on the next slide, we show a larger section of the exam. So you can see all the various exams that are offered as part of this program. Once you select that exam, so the next slide, once you've selected your exam, you'll be brought to a screen where you log in to your SOA account. If you are a first-time user, then you click on the link for the first-time user and you'll be directed to a page where you can set up your login. Once you're done setting up your account, you'll be able to sign up for your exam that you want and also book your time at the Prometric Center. Okay, so let's get into the micro-credentials. For the ASA exam takers, the SOA offers micro-credentials to you. Our micro-credentials are tailored educational goals that recognize and demonstrate to employers the knowledge and skills gained along the pathway to ASA. All elements required to earn these micro-credentials are part of the ASA pathway and count in full toward earning your ASA or FSA. These micro-credentials signal to employers the knowledge that you have gained. These milestone markers will remain with you as candidates if you decide to leave the ASA pathway. They are also applicable if you want to earn one or more micro-credentials. And you obtain digital badges to include on your resumes or on your LinkedIn profile. There's no expiration or renewal for these micro-credentials. You keep the micro-credential wherever you go through your career. Okay, so let's start looking at them on the next slide. So this is the first micro-credential. This is what we call the Pre-Actuarial Foundations micro-credential. And this is the same graphic that demonstrates the pathway for the associateship. And so this micro-credential includes all of the components in that first column. This micro-credential essentially says that you have the mathematical foundation that prepares you for actuarial work. You haven't learned any of the actuarial specific information yet, but you have got the mathematical foundation that allows you to then learn the various actuarial components. Okay, let's go to the next slide. There is a bridge program for those of you who have an Institute of Actuaries of India exam that will give you a waiver for some exam and VEE components of the SOA's pre-actuarial foundations micro-credential. You can apply for the waivers with the SOA, complete the pre-actuarial foundations module, and then include that micro-credential on your resume. Okay, so in the next slide, we'll show a list of the IAI exams and the corresponding SOA requirements as part of this waiver program. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide there, and we can come back to these. And I don't know, Andy, if we're going to be sharing the slides of this presentation, because I know there was a QR code there, and that was pretty quick for people to try to snap on that QR code. So hopefully we can provide more information for everyone on that. The Actuarial Science Foundation micro-credential includes all of the components in the first two columns of the ASA pathway. So this micro-credential says that you have the basics of actuarial knowledge. So obviously the mathematical foundations that are part of that first column, plus the basics of the actuarial knowledge that are in that second column. So it's specifically bringing in that fundamentals of actuarial practice, the fundamentals of actuarial mathematics. We should have named that a little better, right? So we have a fundamentals of actuarial mathematics exam and a fundamentals of actuarial practice modules. So it's somewhat a little bit confusing, but this is the exam that provides the foundational aspects of the long-term and the short-term coverages that are the stepping stone that lead into the advanced exams. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. The next slide is, so we wanted to be able to provide something that will be able to show that you've mastered the predictive analytics of the actuarial world and in a micro-credential. So this data science for actuaries micro-credential offers that. So it includes specifically those three components of the pathway, which are the statistics for risk modeling exam, the predictive analytics exam, and also the advanced topics in predictive analytics e-learning module. So this indicates that you have a command of predictive analytics in the actuarial world. And again, this is one of the strengths of the SOA that we offer is that deep knowledge that you can get, the training that you'll get in predictive analytics world that we offer, not only the basics, but being able to get into the more detailed and the more specific modules that models that you'll run. And again, we want to make sure that you're not just memorizing formulas to learn predictive analytics, but you're able to run models and do the work that actuaries need to do in this particular space. So we're quite proud of our offerings in this space. Okay, so let's move on to slide 23. The other thing is that another thing that you're going to want to check out is that you have the option to join the SOA affiliate membership. It's free to join, and it has no requirements to maintain membership. There are various benefits available to you as an affiliate member, such as Lunch and Learn webcasts. So you can follow the link on this slide to find out more on the affiliate membership. Okay, so I think that was what I wanted to present, and I know there might be questions on this, but I think that we're going to be leaving time at the end to handle any questions that you might have on that. So for me, I will now pass it over to Geet.
Thanks, Scott. Good evening, good morning, everyone. So for my session, I will be speaking about a couple of things. One is my own actuarial journey, the experience with SOA, and the second thing would be the opportunities in India for FSAs. So, I'll start with my own actuarial journey. And I started my actuarial journey in 2008. Back then, there was not an actual common entrance test requirement, but there were certain criteria to become a member of the Institute of Actuaries of India. Unfortunately, I didn't meet any of those criteria. So I reached out to IAI and someone introduced me to the Society of Actuaries. They explained that passing any SOA exam would allow me to apply for the IAI membership. And with that information, I cleared the probability exam and then I became an IAI member. Now, becoming a student member of the SOA was refreshingly very simple. There were no annual fee, and all you needed to do was register for any exam and pass that. The preliminary exams, P and FM, as Scott has mentioned, have offered are currently offered 6 times a year, making it really easy to jump right in. This flexibility was very crucial for me, especially during a 3-year period where I was exploring other credentials like FRM, which is Financial Risk Management, and CFA. So unlike the other actual institutes like IAI and IFOA, where I had to pay annual fees along with late charges to maintain exam eligibility, the SOA allowed me to revisit actual exams on my own terms whenever I felt prepared. Initially, the exam cost drew me back to the AI as Indian uh, actual exam fee was way less as compared to SOAs. But uh, as Scott has shown in the slides that he's now giving a lot of discounts to Indian students. And also my company only reimbursed past exams at the time. So I have to uh, basically I was self-funding my own exams. Since then, I haven't looked back. In 2021, I completed my fellowship with the SOA. My last exam was predictive analytics, which Scott mentioned. I really enjoyed taking that exam with the SOA. And I took that exam amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, which was administered at a Prometric test center. Um, and as Scott mentioned in the previous slides, the Prometric Center provides a consistent testing environment across all their locations, allowing me to take exams in London, Gurgaon, Bangalore, and other cities with a very familiar experience. This consistency meant that I could focus solely on the exam preparation, leaving the logistics to the professionals. While the IFOA and now currently IAI is transitioning to online exams, this actually puts the burden of arranging the equipment, internet, and the power backup on the student, which really adds unnecessary stress. Prometric's standardized environment ensures a fair playing field for all SOA exam takers globally. Uh, the SOA exam curriculum, again, is a perfect blend of courses with project-based assessments and traditional exams. It made my learning and exam experiences very satisfying. As you have seen in the earlier slides, the SOA also adapts to the changing industry landscape by adding exams on topics like predictive analytics and advanced topics in predictive analytics to their pre-associate curriculum. They ensure that their associates are well equipped for the world of machine learning and artificial intelligence. The fellowship course also seamlessly integrates project-based courses and exams, making the actual journey very engaging. Beyond the exams, the decision-making and communication module teaches the crucial communication and decision-making skills for actuaries, which is a truly unique feature. After fulfilling all the fellowship requirements, I attended an unforgettable 3-day fellowship admissions course. This program allowed me to learn about ethics, professionalism through case studies alongside the fellow actuaries who have recently completed all the requirements to become a fellow. It was not only informative, but also a lot of fun. The FAC was the perfect way to conclude my more than a decade-long actuarial journey. So that was basically my experience of SOA. I would also like to talk a bit about the opportunities that are available in India for someone like me, who is an FSA. So broadly speaking, there are two types of insurance companies that hire actuaries in India. One is the Indian insurance companies, which do businesses in India, the insurance business in India. And the second one are the captives who have leveraged the rich actuarial community in India to support the global markets. SOA actuaries do really well in the captives. And there are many consulting firms that also support the US actuarial societies, as they have a lot of clients in that region. So we are studying the same thing. The only difference arises in terms of countrywide regulation, which Scott has mentioned that with the changing curriculum, that is also going to be optional when you are becoming an actuary from SOA. So that's all I wanted to, talk about. I will be very happy to take any questions that you may have at the end. And with that, I will hand over to Andy.
Thanks, Geet. Appreciate you providing those insights, and as well to Scott for his presentation and recovery from his technical difficulties. So appreciate that. I'm going to just talk a little bit here at the end in terms of the scheduled sort of formal presentation about what we see as some of the value proposition for students and actuaries to consider in the context of India. Geet has just referred to some of those as well, so some of this will look familiar, but I just want to emphasize some of these things that we think are distinctives about our approach, the Society of Actuaries approach to our examination and credentialing process. And so again, just want to highlight some of these things. First, as was mentioned, we have all of our exams except for the e-learning modules, but anything where there's a sort of a rigorous assessment type approach to things, those run through these prometric test centers. And as Scott said, we have strong security. So when you take an exam at a prometric test center, you have to show your ID to prove that you are who you are, and that we know that you are the person who's taking the exam, that there's not somebody else taking it on your behalf or on behalf of somebody else. And that creates both equity at the level that, we're checking to see that people are who they say they are, but also with the, as he mentioned, that the fact that everybody has sort of the same equipment. As Geet said, you're not trying to worry about your own internet quality or the size of your laptop or whether you have a big screen or a small screen. There's equity there. And then the second point, that we have a variety of assessment formats that fit the material being tested. So as mentioned, we start with multiple choice, but then we have some combination, multiple choice written answer. We have some exams that are more project-based. We use online e-learning modules for certain material. And so I think that doing that allows different approaches and can be allows us to adapt to what kind of content we're testing as well. Again, as mentioned previously, we've got the first two exams that are offered 6 times a year with immediate results. That gives you maximum flexibility. And many of the other exams are offered 3 times per year. In fact, as Scott mentioned, some of the changes coming through our fellowship exam levels those will be offered, not all of them, but a number of them will be offered 3 times a year in the future, starting in 2025. Again, this e-learning component. So the e-learning components, you can kind of fix them between the exam periods if you want, and you can do those on your own time. So you don't have to, finish the e-learning at a specific date. There's some time periods in which you have to complete the material, but but you don't have to, you don't have to take an exam on a particular date. So it's a nice way to fit that e-learning components between maybe you're studying for a specific exam. Another thing I don't think we've talked about yet today, though, is also our approach to grading. I guess Scott talked about the grading process, but what we didn't necessarily emphasize is the fact that we do have very consistent pass rates. So you can go back on our website, you can see the pass rates for various exams, and they vary a little bit, but typically they're in the 40 to 60% range of exams, and typically the later exams tend to have a little bit higher pass rates, just because in the later fellowship exams, you have people who have been in the pathway for a while. They know the process of studying, and they're the students who are candidates who are very serious at that point and motivated to complete their examination process. So but again, there's a rigorous process we apply to that, and so on. Another thing that again that Geet mentioned is that we don't have any student membership fees. So unlike some of the other associations where you have to pay an annual student membership fee just for the privilege of taking the exams, in our case, that's not part of what we do. We do have this affiliate membership that's kind of like a student membership, but it's free, and there's some great benefits associated with it, and it's not required actually to take our exams. So you don't have to be an affiliate member to actually take our exams. We strongly encourage it. We find that our affiliate members have better satisfaction scores when we do surveys than non-affiliates. But again, there's no fee for that. And finally, our view is that our content that we test is very practical, and particularly if you're working in the captive or offshoring industry, where you may get more exposure to some of the content that would be relevant if you're working on US-based plans or other international plans, that has particular relevance, we believe. I hear this when I've traveled to India. People who are taking SOA exams tell me they're very pleased that our exams aren't as theoretical as some of the other ones they've encountered, and that it's practical material they can take back and apply on the job, especially when it comes to things like the predictive analytics exams. So those are some of the distinctives that we think are valuable. I want to highlight just a few other things, and then we're almost ready for the Q&A period. One is just that we have a number of resources and sort of specific things we've been focused on for India. We've already talked about this exam exemptions for IAI exams. We do have a broader program of exemptions for IFOA exams, and so that information is on our website. I didn't put that in here specifically. We have this special global access exam pricing pilot program that's in place for 2024. There is a general international discount. That general international discount is about 20%, but as noted earlier, this global access pricing is 50% for the first 3 or 4 exams, and 30% for the other associate level exams. So that's it's a significant benefit for those of you in India. And then some other information. We have a LinkedIn group. We've got this again, the affiliate membership, and I've put contact details for Arndam on the screen as well as our local contact, and you can reach out to him if you have questions. I'm sure you'd be happy to connect also via WhatsApp and that sort of thing. Okay, a couple other things. One is just if you're interested in learning more about IFRS 17 this new accounting requirement, we do have a program that we're working with in concert with the cooperation with the Institute of Actuaries of India, where we have this separate certificate. This is independent of our credentialing pathway, but we have a separate certificate that's out there. I don't want to spend much time on it today, but just simply let you know that this is available. There's a special pricing available for the India context again. And so that's something that's out there, and registration is available even as we speak for that. And then maybe just a couple additional resources. We do have online sample exams for exam P and FM if you're interested in seeing the types of questions that are asked on those exams. We have a newsletter for our candidates. So if you sign up for a newsletter or for, to be a candidate, you can get a newsletter. You can also just sign up directly, even if you haven't taken an exam. And with that, I think we can move right into the questions period. So I see that we've gotten a group of questions that have been submitted while we've been talking. I invite Scott and Eat to come back on the screen and turn on your videos. And we can maybe work our way through some of these questions that we've received. So the first question was, can we please discuss the exemptions for IFOA and IAI exams and which exams give corresponding exemptions? So I think Scott mentioned that there are 4 IAI exams for which there are exemptions. Let's see if we can just for the sake of clarity, go back and show those. Whoops, went back too far. Here we go. So here are the specific IAI exams that we have exemptions for: the CB1, CB2, CS1, and CM1. And those map into these SOA components, the VE components, as well as exams P and FM. Scott, we also have a program with the IFOA as well, correct? Where people can bring their exams in. And that's a little more extensive. There's actually a link on our website that if somebody has a question, we can point you to that afterwards. We didn't put that link in our presentation here, but there is a PDF document on our website that shows which exemptions we have from IFOA to the SOA.
Yeah, that's more extensive information. So there's more IFOA exams that we offer waivers to, and as Andy said, there's a link on our website that you can follow and get. There's a list 2023 waiver rules for the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries exams. So that information's all on our website, and we don't have a link for that on our slide deck, but and I know there's a later question that asks a similar kind of thing as well.
Yeah. Let me see if there's several other questions that kind of deal with the exemption. So one individual is asking, is it possible to get a waiver for the FAM exam based on CM1 and CS1 IAI exams, which is similar to the waiver provisions we have for IFOA? At this point in time, we don't have that in place. That's something we would have to consider for the future. I can't make any promises of whether that will be changed or not. That request has come in, from others in the past. So right now, it is limited in terms of how many IAI exams we have giving credit for, but it's something that we might consider in the future, but it's not in the current program. And I guess another similar question, someone says, I have a few exam credentials from IA and a few from IFOA. Is there any way I can take exemptions for all my exams from SOA? I guess what I would say in that case is, again, if you have a combination of IAI and IFOA exams, try and look at what's on the website. You can also send an email to us or to actually our registrar, Brett Rogers, and you certainly can contact me or Scott, and we can give you the email address for Brett. Brett can give you the specifics, lay out explicitly what you would get credit for in the SOA system and which ones you might have to retake. We hope that's a minimal level of retake because we understand. I think all three of us, having gone through exam systems, don't understand that once you pass an exam, you don't really want to go back and take that material again. Yeah, we'll feel free to contact us, and we can put you in touch with the SOA staff who can really give you the definitive answer on which ones you would have credit for under our system. All right, let's maybe go there's a couple questions asking about study material. So maybe just to generalize, I'll start with Scott and then go to Geet and let you both try and respond to this. What's the process you would go about to study and get the materials for, especially maybe starting with the entry-level exams, P or FM? Where do you get study material? How do you prepare for the exams? What kind of guidance can you give in that regard? So maybe Scott, if you start, and then I'll let Geet come to that, given kind of your India context.
Sure. So each landing page for each of the exams on our website will have a syllabus, and in that syllabus document, it'll show the required readings, and so you can look at what those required readings are for each of the exams. Now, some of them, some of them are textbooks that you may need to purchase separately for the required readings, and some of them might be readings that are available as a download on our website. But there's also links on that main landing page for each website to be able to find sample questions and practice questions as well. So that's the resource that we recommend. There are third-party vendors available out there, coaching actuaries and Actex, and there's many others. There's quite a few of them actually, and they offer these services in addition to what the required readings are and the practice questions that we make available. So, and Geet, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Scott, you have answered perfectly. I just wanted to add one thing. As Scott mentioned, that there are a lot of materials available apart from the textbooks that SOA prescribes. So what I did personally was I used to go in a forum. When I was appearing for exams, there was an actual outpost forum, a very common forum where anybody can ask any question and get a really good answer. Nowadays, I think people can go to Reddit and check for that particular exam page and ask any question on the which material or which supplementary material people are using, as Scott has mentioned about the coaching actuaries, the actual bookstore, Actex. So you can ask them, but I think that's exactly what I used to do. So yep, just get in touch with fellow exam takers who have recently cleared that exam, and they can guide you in that regard.
Yeah, I think Reddit has kind of been the replacement for the actual outpost. That being said, I think we also, if you join our affiliate membership program, there is an ability for students to kind of communicate within themselves at that level as well. I'm not sure, I can't honestly speak about how developed that is versus say some of the external Reddit forums, but we do have about 14,000 students and others who have joined our affiliate membership program. So that's quite a large group of individuals as well. So there's opportunities to get information there as well. Okay, there's lots of good questions. Let's see, what do we go to next? I guess somebody asked, are there any plans to increase the number of exam setters in tier 2 cities in India, such as Pune or Nagpur? And I guess I would say, so the SOA, because of our situation working with Prometric, we work with Prometric to, and so we're at some level, we're limited to where they have test centers. But that being said, we do work to make two things. One is we work with Prometric and talk to them and say, listen, we have a lot of requests for exams in this city or this place. And over time, we have been able to convince them to open test centers in other cities. But that, they need to be convinced it's not just for the SOA, but for their other clients that there's value in doing that. So I can tell you that has happened in some other cities, not that I'm aware of in India specifically yet, but in other parts of Asia. The other thing though is if we have, in some cases, are able to, depending on the exam, we are also able to, in special circumstances, get exceptions where we allow people to take the exams outside of a prometric test center, but still in a very proctored manner. And so if you have a hardship to get to a test center, you can contact us and we'll look at the opportunities to see. I can't make promises there, but we do, in some cases, you end up back kind of taking an exam with your paper exam, and that sort of thing. So you don't get instant results like you would for PNFM. But that there are some options if the travel becomes a hardship. So I would say reach out to our staff about that, and we can evaluate those situations. I would hope, though, in the future that Prometric will expand to places like Pune, because I know there is a actuarial community in that, in some of those cities. Scott, maybe direct this one to you. How long do results for FAM and SRM take, roughly?
With these particular ones, I mean, these ones aren't instant results yet, and so there's still the process of going through and evaluating the results and determining the appropriate pass mark for the exam. So that takes about 10 to 11 weeks to complete that, and then package everything and get it ready and send the results out.
But one of the things we are working on, I don't know, actually, I don't know the answer to this. So we are working on decreasing the grading times as it relates to the fellowship exams. Will that same decrease in grading time that we're working at that level also translate down to some of these associate exams as part of the process?
There's no there's no immediate plans to do that. Obviously, everybody wants their results as fast as possible, and we want to get the results out as fast as possible. But the reality is that if we want to be thorough with the grading, then there's certain elements of that do take time. With the multiple choice exams, the goal is always to get them to instant results. And I think we are still the only actuarial association that has any exams that offer instant results. So, and with SRM and FAM being newer exams, we just don't yet have the statistics to be able to offer those exams instantly. So we'll get there. We were hoping to get there this year with SRM and maybe next year with FAM. So that it should happen fairly soon. When it comes to written answer questions, there's really only one way to grade those, and that's by hand. And we want to make sure that we're considering every answer properly and making sure that even an answer that isn't exactly what we expect to see as a model answer, that we're giving due consideration and making sure we're grading everything properly, and that takes time. And like I said, everything that's close to that passing mark, we're looking at a second time, and then those two graders are working together to make sure that we establish that final mark. And you just can't do that in 1 or 2 weeks. That takes time to be able to make sure that you're doing that as efficiently as you can, to make sure that everybody gets the right result, not the wrong result. So I think, and Andy and I can all attest that. And Geet, I'm sure as well, I wrote many exams thinking I passed and got my results, and I failed. And I thought they must have made a mistake. They didn't do a good enough job grading. So I can tell you now that I've been working at the SOA for a little over 11 years, and I've peeked behind the curtain, so to speak. I can tell you that it's an extensive grading process, and they really do make sure that, and these are volunteers. Let's be clear, these are volunteers. These are volunteers that are experts in that field. So you have somebody grading that exam who is an expert in predictive analytics, that's grading the predictive analytics exam. So they really understand, they really know what they're looking at, and that's why there's a time element to it. So
yeah, good. All right. let's see here. There's a couple questions about VEE credits. Scott, are you able to talk a little bit about how the VE credits work in terms of getting credits from specific, universities in India, and how that process kind of works and how long it takes, and that sort of approach for things?
Yeah, so on our website, and you can find this on our website. If you go to the main site there, you'll see an education and exams tab there. There'll be a link to get to the validation by educational experience, and from there there's another link that will show the directory of approved courses and alternate options, and that's where you can put in your country, which is India, hit search, and when I search here, it looks like there's about 12 to 15 different universities listed there. And so you find that university, you find that course that you took at university, and then you just submit that application, and demonstrate your transcript or whatever it is that you need to submit to get that VEE credit. And that's the process that you follow. Now, if your university isn't listed there, then you can make a request that we evaluate and consider that university and evaluate that course and consider adding that course. But that's pretty much how the process works. I'm not sure how long that takes between when you actually submit the application for the VEE when you get it, but it's generally not very long, because there's no evaluation process. I mean, other than verifying that that's the mark that you got and that's the university, yep, all good. So I think it's pretty quick.
Yeah, I think the key probably is for students who may have gone to a university where it's not in our system yet, and so that may take a little bit longer for you to actually, then we would want to see kind of a syllabus, I believe, of the course itself from the university to see what's covered. But then, if you happen to be that first person for that university who's submitting the statistics course from that university, or the accounting and finance or whatever courses, then that may take a little bit longer, but usually it can get done while you're doing other things. I mean, we don't let somebody actually, I think, get VE credit until they've passed at least PNFM, because we don't want you to apply for VE credit. There is a charge for that. It's not super expensive, but there is a charge. So we don't want you applying for VE credit until you've actually passed a few exams, so that you're making progress. But it shouldn't hold you up from getting the associate. I mean, you can start that process once you've kind of completed those initial exams. I guess another question that was related to that was, and I don't know that we have a good answer to this, but somebody asked, is it possible for the SOA to collaborate with universities providing actuarial science courses in India for making VE exemptions easily available? Actually, the answer to that is we are actually working, a part of our outreach in India and other countries, and certainly this is what Arndam's focused on, is as we make connections with universities, that we do encourage them to actually, if they're teaching actuarial courses, if they're trying to prepare their students for an actuarial science career, that they actually connect with us proactively and get their courses recognized. So that's something we try and do. And even if it's not a true actuarial degree program at a university, most universities do have these courses that would be covered. So we would look to try and encourage those university professors even to submit that. And that's sort of the first level of recognition we give to university at this VE level. There's some other levels of recognition that universities can get as well, which I won't go into here today. It's not the purpose of today's call, but certainly that would be something that would be available. All right, let's see. what's another? There was a question about somebody who said that, they're wishing to start SOA exams and just need direction on how to get started. So, Scott, do you have any ideas of kind of how you would, if somebody's just kind of learned about the profession? Actually, I think that's a question for both of you, but we'll start with Scott and then Geet, especially from the India perspective.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything on our website that helps point you in that that direction. I mean, the only thing I can really think about or find is more about how you get to all the individual components. Each of the exams, how do you sign up for each of the exams? So I can't really point you to anywhere on the particular on the website, but in terms of that pathway graphic that I showed you, so that far left column is where you want to start. And so most people, when they start off working toward an actuarial designation, they'll start with either the financial mathematics exam or the probability exam. And I often get asked the question, which is the better one to start with? And usually the answer is the better one to start with is the one that you've probably just taken at university, or the first one. So sometimes every university is a little bit different. And if you've just taken the probability material at university, then write that one. If you've just taken financial math, then write that one. So it's usually better to focus on the one that the material that you don't need one for the other. There's no order in terms of those two particular exams, so that either one of those is fine to start with. You're going to want to focus on those exams before you start thinking about asking for credit for VEEs. So one of the things that you need to be able to get credit for the VEE is you need credit for I can't remember the specific rule, but it's either one or two exams before you can ask for credit for that exam. And even with the pre-actuarial foundations e-learning module as well, is you need some components before you can take that. So your starting place is really that that financial mathematics or the probability exam.
Anything you'd add to that, Geet?
Nothing. Scott summarized it pretty well. From my experience, as Scott mentioned, I was studying in the university and studying the probability, so I took the probability exam and easily passed it. So yeah, that's about it.
I guess the other thing I would say is if you're interested in the career but not quite sure how to get started, join this affiliate membership. I've put the screen on, the QR code back on there. We have there's just there's like a library of material, of video content, online video content, of past events that we've hosted. Some of it's just kind of like an actuary talking about what they do, or presentations on how to take exams, or just different things like that. So that's a good sort of approach to things. All right, we have just a few minutes left, so let me and we still got some good questions out there. So well, one question was, can you share the slides? So yes, we will send the slides around as a PDF document. Actually, we'll send a link to the recording as well, so you'll have that available to you. So yes, don't worry about that. That will be coming. And then there's an exam or a question about what exams are subjective, and also a question, I guess, related, but does it include typing at the Prometric Test Center? So I mean, I think the second question is, yes, you do have to type at this exam centers, but it's different than some of the other associations where they're expecting you to type mathematical formulas. That's not how we're not testing your ability to type mathematical formulas, especially the early exams. They're all multiple choice. So you've just got to be able, I mean, you can write whatever you want on your scratch paper, and then you just have to, be able to type A, B, C, or D basically for the first several exams. And then later on, it's really more typing answers to questions, but we're less focused on specific, mathematical formula typing. Maybe Scott, what kind of maybe deal with the subjective, where exams are subjective, or how you would respond to that.
Yeah, I'm not entirely clear on what you mean by subjective. All the questions are designed to be as objective as possible so that we can best assess your knowledge. And I mean, really, that at the end of the day, that's exactly what we're trying to determine is has the candidate demonstrated they understand it, yes or no? And so we try to, as much as possible, to be objective with that measure and not subjective. So the questions are designed to give you give your answers in a way that can be very objectively graded. So I don't know whether that's what was intended by that question, but hopefully that answers it.
Scott, subjective, I think what he means is that is it going to be a written answer question?
Okay, so yeah, and I talked about the different components that are multiple choice and then the ones that are written answers. So the advanced actuarial mathematics exams, either the advanced long-term or the advanced short-term, those are written answer questions. The predictive analytics exam is a written answer question exam as well. So the other exams are all multiple choice. And then when you get into the fellowship level beyond the associateship, those are all written answer exams. And written answer is predominantly those exams. You enter your answer either in a Word document or an Excel file. And as Andy mentioned, we're not trying to test your ability to be really good at Excel. They're just used for your main formulas and nothing too complex. We don't want anyone who's an expert in Excel to be at an advantage to somebody who's just a basic user of Excel. So these are tools. The way we view it is Excel is just another calculator that you can use, but it allows you to kind of put your answer in there, and it's so much better to answer questions that way, and the graders find that much easier as well. So anyways, I know we're running short on time, so I don't know whether there's any other questions that we want to tackle.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a question, maybe to generalize the question, why is it that certain exams are exempted from the IFOA and not from the IAI? I think part of that is a function of history, but part of it's also just might relate to some of the evaluations as we look at one exam system over the other, the consistency of pass marks and or perhaps the inconsistency of pass marks, and how those are developed, that we want to have comfort level that there is the same appropriate sort of process in place for things. So it's possible we'll do further evaluation of some of the IAI exams in the future, but at this point in time, what we've shown on the screen in that prior question is what's available. I think there was actually one other question about exemption fees, and for the IAI exams to bring to the SOA, there is a $100 fee to get credit, but that I believe would be a one-time fee. So whatever of your IAI exams you're bringing to the SOA, you would be charged $100 for that. But it's really mostly administrative fee to deal with that. And if you bring 4 exams across to do so, that's the $100 I know is significant in Indian context, but much less than the actual cost of any of those exams, or any one of those exams would be more than $100. So I think that's maybe where we'll stop. Actually, I'll ask Geet or Scott, was there anything that we missed in the questions that any of you would like to respond to at this point, or any other maybe general summary comments you'd like to respond to?
Andy, I think there was one question about minimum passing criteria for exams. So it is again, it is different from the IFO and IEI. I think if you would like to highlight the grades 0 to 10 and 6 and above being the passing criteria, so that would be nice.
Okay, so
that's good.
yeah, in passing criteria, I don't know whether that means, is there a minimum level you need to pass the exam, or are we looking for a certain percentage of people who pass and people who fail? And so I know there's always that feeling. I know when I was writing exams, I always felt that it was a competition and I had to finish in the top 1/3 to pass. And that is not the case. There is no predetermined, we need to have this percentage of people passing. There is a predetermined idea of what the level that you need to achieve in terms of mastery of that material to be considered a pass. Obviously, with the exams that are instant results, we already know that level beforehand. So you write the exam, you find out right away, did you hit that level, yes or no? The ones that are yet to be instant results, that's why one of the reasons why it takes 11-12 weeks, because we're still working on making sure that we're setting that level at the right level once we get to instant results. So hopefully that helps.
All right, good. Well, I appreciate all of you participants who have been here today participating in this. And thanks to Scott and Geet for presenting today. I'm sure we're all out on LinkedIn, happy to connect with people there. Happy to try and answer questions or direct you to the right people at the SOA who have the 100% correct question where we may not. And I'm sure Geet would be happy to connect, and he's a great volunteer for the SOA. In addition to being a member, he's actually been involved in the redesign of our fellowship exams that Scott referenced earlier. He's been part of a group working on that. So he's quite knowledgeable and a good resource for you in India, as well as, of course, Arindam, who I've mentioned earlier. And so I would just say thanks to everyone for participating today. And maybe just show, where was this? Arindam's email address if you want to get in touch with him. And otherwise, we'll send a recording and a link to this presentation afterwards. Thank you for joining us for today's event, and we look forward to hopefully seeing some of you as candidates for the SOA in the future, if you're not already in that process. And again, thanks for spending an hour of your day with us today. All right, have a good day.